A great support for us, and he's been a great help to us. So he's come today to share with us his experiences, and he's very, very welcome. So, Morten, thank you very much.
Well, it was actually a very real conversation I had with Rosa. It was just over Skype. But I'll also talk a little bit to you about virtual teaching. I don't know if you do that. We do it every now and then. Yeah, just to sum up in the story, about 3.5 years ago, a guy called Alfredo Hernando from Spain, he's a psychologist and a teacher. He proposed himself to travel around the world and visit, I think, 50 or 80 different schools that he would claim were innovative, and interview people, do a little blog that he put up on the internet on his own, and he would finance it all by himself. I think with his READ initiative shows some enthusiasm about this issue. Later on, Fundación Telefónica, the Telefónica Foundation, has a lot of money that they invest in health and in education. They discovered what he was doing, and they helped him out financially to actually publish the book in a really nice format. It's a PDF that you can just download from the internet, and now it advises all teachers around the world, actually, because it's in 2 versions, in Spanish and in English, to just flick through that book. It's not a book that you would read from one end to the other.
Hello.
Good morning. I'm Morten.
Secondary.
But it's a really, it's a good book to be just inspired by. And I think when it comes to innovation, it's not that in my school or in Denmark or anything we are world champions of innovation. Actually, I don't think you can say some are more innovative than others. Well, maybe you can, but it's more like a practice. It's not a competition of being the most innovative. Sometimes innovation and being innovative, I think you can even be counterproductive if you feel forced to be innovative. I'll get into that later on, but I think that you should still see where the innovation as a means to an end can actually get you somewhere. And very often I've found that it can save you a lot of time. It can save you a lot of time with the same or even with better results. I'll show some examples, and maybe you could be inspired, maybe you don't. I think that it's important to look at it as a toolbox, and I also talked a little bit about team teaching, because it's a toolbox shared with all the other co-workers. And sometimes you pick up the tool, you use it, you show a colleague how you use that tool. So I'm thinking that, hello, good morning. I'm thinking that I'll do my part for about half an hour, speak for about 30 minutes. Then I suggest that we split into little groups, maybe just as you sit around the table, just to get some smaller units. Good morning. Good to see you. And then kind of, run over what you've heard, what it made you think. And I must say, I'm not into theories of pedagogy. How do you pronounce that in English? Pedagogy. I'm not a theorist. I'm a practitioner. I practice teaching, and I practice it a lot, and I practice it with so much enthusiasm that I think you do too. I think it's hard to be a teacher not to be somehow interested. Thanks a lot. Somehow interested in your own practice. So I'm going to show you a little bit about my practice, and maybe you can do that. And then after 30 minutes of just group discussion, and I'll kind of join in different groups, I think we could just recap. A lot of, when we do these exercises, a lot of the points that you're making will be the same points that you're making. But maybe these people have some points that we didn't go along. Yeah, I'll start by showing you a little video about the place that I work and some of the thoughts that we have on teaching. It's in Spanish, but I was told that most of you can understand Spanish, and we'll just resume what some of the points, major points. Maybe you can also do little translations to some of the points that you're noticing. This is the video that Alfredo Hernando did some 3.5 years ago, 2013, when he visited my school and he did an interview with me. And this is what he put on his own little web blog. Let me see. It's also to show you some of the facilities and
La moderna enseñanza en nuestra visión es más que tiene que parecerse en lo posible, porque es una situación de enseñanza, pero en lo posible tiene que parecerse a la realidad, porque los estudiantes tarde o temprano van a terminar ahí en la realidad, trabajando en un proyecto o lo que fuera. Y por eso, por supuesto, tienen que aprender, pero no necesariamente tiene que ser el profesor que les enseña. El profesor en este instituto, en una situación, por lo menos, se ha convertido en una especie de guía, no profesor tradicional. En algunas situaciones sí, sigue siendo el profesor tradicional. Entonces los profesores aquí tenemos que salir y entrar de un papel siendo, ahora soy profesor tradicional y estoy dando clases de gramática. Y ahora soy profesor no tan tradicional, donde organizo una especie de proyecto en grupos entre los alumnos, donde el tema puede ser la Segunda Guerra Mundial. Bueno, vamos a dar diferentes razones del por qué la guerra mundial. Bueno, primer grupo, investiguen todo lo que podrían ser las razones económicas. Segundo grupo, razones políticas, razones sociales, razones culturales, etc. O muchas otras explicaciones que podemos dar para explicar el fenómeno histórico de la Segunda Guerra Mundial. Y no tendría sentido que yo les diera todas las respuestas y que entrara en sus apuntes, no. Yo pienso que ellos tienen que ir a investigar libros, páginas web, a lo mejor una exhibición que hay en un museo de Copenhague por aquí, o un museo virtual que hay en una página del Museo de Londres, no sé, a investigar. O sea, hay varias actividades simultáneas. Y mi papel en esta clase es un poco caminar entre ellos y guiarles, no necesariamente darles las respuestas, sino guiarles en cómo buscar sus propias respuestas. Y por eso la aula tradicional, cuadrada con una pizarra y un profesor que da clases, no siempre nos sirve. Y por eso nuestra visión de lo que es enseñanza moderna, que no es la respuesta de lo que es la enseñanza moderna, pero es una propuesta, es una manera de verlo, ha influido en la manera que hemos construido o se construyó este edificio. Hay aulas tradicionales como saben y todo, pero también hay lo que llamamos espacios grupales, para grupos donde los chicos van, forman grupos de 2, 3, 4 personas y se ponen a trabajar más o menos en lo suyo. Pueden ponerle el ángulo que quieran. Por supuesto, el guía, el profesor, tiene que ayudarles, asistirles en que sea no una historia china, un cuento chino, tiene que ser fundada en la asignatura de historia o la clase de biología, lo que fuera. Y por eso tenemos que estar constantemente en contacto con ellos, pidiéndoles respuestas, pidiéndoles que reflexionen un poco la metodología de ver tal tema y tal, pero intentamos no darles siempre las respuestas, porque entonces sería como un coche que llega a una gasolinera y se llena y se va, y cuando está vacía viene y se llena y se va. No, la enseñanza, nuestra visión aquí es que si ellos se proponen un problema y se proponen una solución con la metodología adecuada, llegan a tener una situación más parecida a lo que es la realidad. Producimos estudiantes y los preparamos para la futura carrera universitaria o para la vida, pero a veces nuestra pedagogía, nuestra manera de ver la didáctica y nuestra visión de lo que es enseñanza y cómo componer material, por ejemplo, difiere un poco de lo que hacen en otros institutos. Hemos tenido un poco la figura de que ponemos el asfalto de la carretera mientras que vayamos por la carretera. Una cosa que para muchos profesores de otros institutos de Dinamarca les daría miedo, no, pero si yo no sé lo que voy a hacer el año que viene o el mes que viene, incluso el módulo que viene, no sé qué hacer, pero los profesores digamos, una manera de decir, bueno, sí, la enseñanza, el conocimiento de alguna forma les iba a llegar, pero hay muchas maneras de llegar a Roma. Sí.
I hope you got a general idea of what I'm on about. And it may turn out that many of your practices are based on the same kind of visions for teaching. Some of the visions in my school where I teach, we have a very visionary director there. As you see, the building is very new and modern. The architecture is fantastic, and it was specifically designed for teaching in the 21st century, where the idea is that the traditional classroom, 4 walls and a whiteboard, it just doesn't really. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's sufficient, and it's actually what you need for your purposes in teaching. But very often, we would need you guys to go investigate something, you guys to do a little minor project, you guys to do some drawings, to kind of transmit what we've all found out, and you guys to do some more analytical work. And that changes my role as a teacher to something else. That's what I'm on about. Be a guide or a mentor, call it whatever you'd like, but it's not the traditional role of a teacher standing here and saying, truth number 1, take notes. Truth number 2, take notes. We have a vision where we want the students to make up their own answers, to formulate their own truths. And you can think about that whatever you want. Sometimes we can also see, it's not all relative. They can't just come up with any truth. So of course we guide them to make them see, formulate a problem that needs to be solved, formulate a methodology that you would use, and come up with a solution. And we don't just evaluate on the solution, we evaluate on the entire process of formulating your problem. Is it relevant? Is it actual? Is it up to date? Is it worth even finding out what you're proposing? Your methodology? No, you can't use those 2 subjects. That get you anywhere. And if you use history, you would not use that methodology. You use another methodology to be directed towards a solution. And the final solution that you come up with, how do you transmit that to your surroundings? I think maybe it's the same thing that you do, but in Denmark it's a little untraditional the way that we work, because we have the traditional role of the teacher, just sharing truths, sharing the reality. That's why I'm talking a bit about reality in the beginning, that teaching, we think, at my school, we think that teaching should always at least attempt to be the closest to reality, the reality that they'll need after school, as possible. How can we somehow work with reality or come close to something that could be a real problem, a real solution? And very often we ask the students to make products that could actually be used by somebody somewhere. One example is that in history, we'll do a theme on the Second World War and the occupation in Denmark, and they'll do little folders and materials and little blogs on the internet, and they'll actually go to what you call it, a nursery home for elderly people. And we actually lived those years and talk to them about it as a dialogue. So they actually come with a product that they did based on all the subjects and the methodologies and so on. But they actually need to be confronted in reality with what they made, and very often they're told that has nothing to do with reality that I lived. Okay, we'll have to adjust the product. We try to differ very much from enseñar, which would be teaching, and then aprender, which would be learning. Very often the traditional role of the teachers is the more I teach, the more they'll learn. But that's not necessarily always the truth. Sometimes teach a bit and let them work with it. It's our methodology, at least. And I'm definitely not here to impose anything. I'm just kind of showing our practices. We want this to happen. We want this to happen. We want the learning process to be working. Do you have one?
It's not my room.
Okay. And we're constantly, individually, and in groups, and as a school, we're constantly reflecting on how this can happen, based on some of this, but also a lot of working on part of the students. And that's why
we can't actually see the top
No.
5
These,
notes.
these, that's also my handwriting. I'm just
No,
trying
it's
to
I think it's just, it's pen.
I put reality as kind of more my own notes from what I've said. We wanted to go close to reality, enseñar y aprender, so teach and learn. We want learning to be happening. Yeah, but guide and mentor, that very often you need to swap into another role. And it's many colleagues of mine in Denmark working in other secondary schools would hate to work in my place. They would hate it. And that's fair enough. People who work at my place, they love it because they very naturally swap in and out of these different roles of being the traditional teacher. And sometimes I'm not very comfortable that this table is over here. I would like to be here, so I'm more blocked away from my students. Notice that maybe about yourself. Maybe you do notice it consciously and maybe not. But some teachers, when I'm in the traditional role of a teacher, teaching Spanish grammar up here, I feel very comfortable because I talk all the time, and the more I talk, the less questions. And I have my desk there, kind of blocking me away from the students. It's confrontational, and it's okay sometimes. But sometimes it's work should be put over to the students. I'll show you an example of how to do that, specifically with Spanish grammar. And there, I swap into this role of being more a guide or a mentor or an adult, a more experienced person, or yeah. So there is a traditional role, and there are other different roles of teacher as we see it. We tend to not give them answers. We tend to not let them reproduce knowledge, but actually produce knowledge. It's very important for us. And we also have a culture at my school, just saying what we do, where we actually supervise each other. I would go and look at your teaching, and sometimes it's a little bit like taking a shower together, because you're very, when you're with your class, you do it your own way. And if there's a colleague standing there, sitting there, and you know that afterwards, you'd go, so you gave a lot of answers, didn't you? Yes, okay, I did. And they took a lot of notes, didn't they? Yes, they did. They didn't work very much themselves on producing knowledge, did they? No, they didn't. And it's sometimes it gets you out of your comfort zone, but it's really nice afterwards. And I would also say, when we teach, we take the students to the rim, and learning, I think, is actually moving your boundaries all the time. You know, getting closer to the rim and maybe just dropping off the rim, like edge. We should do it ourselves. We should expose ourselves a little more, I think. At least it's very healthy, and it's maybe what's this little nervousness by being supervised, by being watched by another colleague, and actually getting the feedback afterwards. And yes, I could improve. That's what we ask for our students. Maybe we should take on medicine. So yes, in 21st century teaching, I think that you need to be open to many different activities at the same time, simultaneously, instead of teaching, listening, taking notes, preparing for exams. So a lot of, and that takes you up to reality, because in reality, in the workplace, that's what happens. You know, Rosa or whoever is directing here wouldn't be standing talking through your work. You go through many different things at the same time, aiming at the same goal, I suppose, which is the learning of the students. And you find your own answers, I hope. You find your own answers of how to teach history or English or whatever to this group of people, and maybe also individually to that person, because there's another answer of how you teach English to that person than how you would teach German to this person or this group. I think that teaching and learning is a very, very dynamic process, so let it be dynamic would be my suggestion. The question is, do you dare? It's kind of a psychological challenge, isn't it? Do you dare to move away from your desk and just set the teaching free? Yeah, go into groups and find some answers and we'll look at it. Because, and I know there's also a reality of parents saying, yes, that's all very cool, do some projects, but if my kid doesn't get into university, I'm coming after you. So do you dare? As you saw, the architecture is very special, especially designed for the teaching in the 21st century. And we have the privilege of working in a school that was built in 2005. Many places don't. They have walls and some restrictions in the architecture of the place. I would remind you that Alfredo Armando, he was visiting different schools all over the world, innovative schools all over the world. Some in really fancy buildings like my own of glass and steel, but also barefoot schools in India. They just sit around in the square like this and teach. But you can sit around in a dusty square like this and teach innovatively, I would argue.
Is it actually called gymnasium?
Yeah.
Is a school called gymnasium?
Yeah, it's not a gym.
No.
But yeah, that's the word. We'd have to look into the
But
etymology.
Is that a deliberate thing to make it sound like somewhere that...
Where you train?
Yeah, and I don't know, do you
Work
want
out.
physical things?
It's German for schools.
Is it German for school?
Old English school call you
Yeah.
Like
It's English for school. Ah, right.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about the etymology.
To evaluate on the process of evaluation, how do you do that?
Evaluate on the process?
Of evaluation?
Yeah. One of my slides come into that, but let's take it up now. The results would be a note, like a number. You get a note, a grade, no grade, grade. You get a grade for the product you made. But you can also actually grade the process of working in a group. You can also make the students reflect on their own process. So did you turn off Facebook? Did you turn off all the different gadgets that you have? Did you turn off your friends making noise? That's also a process. We do a lot of projects in our school. Sometimes we just clear the entire week, even up to 2 weeks for the elderly, the older students. My students are from 16 to 19. And when they get into the third year, it's a lot of projects, and they really need to be self-disciplined. Because it's like going to, if you came in here every day, spend 9 hours on Facebook, the question is how long you would stay here, you need to go work. So we try to teach them the self-discipline of actually clearing their schedule for 2 weeks, and then they formulate a project, formulate some the methodology, and come up with solutions. And we're with them all the time as guides, as mentors. So I would sit with my math colleague, and I'm a history teacher, you would come into school, and we would help you formulate your problem on Gaudí, the map of Gaudí in his architecture of Barcelona. A lot of Spanish culture thing and a lot of math too. And we would evaluate on the fly, if you could say that. And so the way you kind of formulating your problem to be investigated, I think you're going to get into trouble because that cannot be found in the material, or does it even have relevance. And then you go on working, we find out a problem that you formulated, and you start working on it, find the material, and we say, I'm sure that material is good. Did you read it?
I'm asking because I teach IB English, and it's very much project.
Yes.
And one of the main projects that we've looked at this year, which may be of more relevance even next year, is prejudice in immigration and emigration.
Right.
And a lot of them this year, they just went to the internet and they believed everything
Yes.
that, and I'm thinking, no, that's actually not
Yes.
true. So I would be interested, I'm going to evaluate you on the way that you process this. I think that's an interesting concept.
Of course, evaluation when it comes to putting a grade on the final product is more easy than evaluating the process. That's for sure. And the evaluation of the process is more it's more as you go along, I would say. And the students are also very conscious of the process. They know when they are lazy or when they are not too critical or when they are. So very often at the end of the project, when it's all, when you've corrected the final product or even corrected the presentation that they make for the final, they get that grade for the final product. But we all, and that's not just like, yeah, you get a 10. Let's talk about it. Remember when you got into these problems? And what we do is that they kind of do a logbook where the student writes his logbook with his reflections and his thoughts, and alongside with that, we would write our reflections and our thoughts on that individual students and his individual process. And that's much more interesting than the grade 10.
Yeah, see, I think that is much more important because with our students, when I hand them their work back corrected, they tend not to look at the corrections.
Yes.
They want to see the mark.
Yes.
What did I get?
Yes.
What did you put?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I think that's we've got to get more away from that. It's
And
terrible.
it's a universal problem all over the world. Every teacher I talk to from every country in the world, they have that same problem. Youth today, maybe always, they're very focused on the result and not the process, but they don't kind of recognize the fact that without a good, healthy, clean process, where the part of the process sometimes going back and around and then get on the track again, without a good process, you don't get a good result.
See, I think that one of the most wonderful things about ID is that let's look at the criteria that you're going to be marked on. And it should not necessarily be the end product.
Yeah.
It should be the process, which I think is.
That's quite often the IB criteria, you have a progression of skills. And evaluation, it's not just the end point, it's the progression from A to Z.
Yes.
You know, it's that wherever a student starts and where they finish, it's their journey.
We do a lot of logbooks, as we would call it, so we can also talk about the process they had once the project is finished. Also, we do, I don't know how you do, we work a lot with Google documents, and I'll show you an example in a little while on how I do Spanish grammar differentiated, because I also want to talk to you about differentiation, which is not nice to have, but it's need to have. It's not just something that you can consider, never get around to prepare, and then you end up not doing it. Differentiation today is key, I would say, because especially in my school, I have the feeling that you have some quite resourceful students here, economically, socially, culturally, maybe. Some of our students are definitely not resourceful, and that's why we need to differentiate. And so when I teach Spanish grammar, I don't differentiate just in A, B, and C. I differentiate in 28 different levels. And that's where I can follow all the processes of 28 students via a Google document. Maybe I should just show you that now. See, this is and of course this is what I do when I teach Spanish grammar. Maybe it can be translated to when you teach English grammar or German grammar, and maybe it cannot. You decide. I just show you my practice. I found out that it doesn't make sense to have 28 students. That's the average I would have in a classroom. It doesn't make sense that I would say, okay, day one in year one, we start conjugating la chica, el chico. Okay, everybody up to speed with that? Yes, we go on. But in the second half of that module, our modules are 100 minutes. Or in the second module, or week 2, you'll have some that actually learned more than what the content was of that module, and some who didn't show up for class, or did but mentally didn't show up. So you already have the differentiation after 1 minute of teaching. So what I did was that I took the entire content of the grammar book from page 1 to page 318, and I put it into a pyramid. And I was inspired by, in Denmark we have the diet pyramid. You need to eat everything from down here, some from here, and a little bit from up here. And I did that. It's in Danish, but it's all the different isolated grammatical things and the thing is down in the bottom of the pyramid, you need to have that to be able to express yourself orally or written. It gets a little more complicated, but it's still basic. And then if you get up here, it's more advanced. So you can actually make language without doing this, but it's not just very advanced. And if you need to do really advanced stuff, it's up here. And I would say everybody start working on the pyramid. Everybody walks into the pyramid from the bottom, start working with a block of content there. They read the grammar, the paragraphs in the grammar, they study maybe on the internet, they found out. And then they would write, I would see Katrina. Katrina actually did her own grammar book in a Google document. Starting day one in the first year, I've been for 3 years, she made this headline and she started working, and she ended up doing 20 pages of her own grammar notes. So she would go in and read about some specific topic of grammar. She would write the different paragraphs, pretty much copying the paragraphs from the grammar book. But then I challenged her to put that into your own words. How would you explain that with your own words? And after that, show me 3 to 5 different examples of that here in the Google document. And then I would walk over to Katrina and say, can you tell me that you understand what you just put in your Google Doc? And she will explain to me orally, and I'll say, now you're ready to move on the pyramid. And I would go over to you, and you moved on years ago. You're light years ahead of this. But I've always ensured that you're standing on a scaffold that doesn't fall down. So it's kind of a scaffolding model. This is so efficient. Everybody feels, every of the 28 students feel they're working at the adequate level. They feel that they have my attention on what they are doing. Compared to the fact that if I did not do this, okay, today, middle of year 2, Wednesday, whatever, of March, we've come to the personal pronoun. Personal pronoun, el, la, le, lo. And I'll have you guys' attention. These, they already do it. And these are never going to come around for the personal pronoun in Spanish. Okay? No. Probably. No. I hope you get my point. That's why not differentiating is actually counterproductive, because maybe in that module you taught the personal pronoun to 5 people, but there's still 28. There's continuously 28 people in that module. And you're kind of ignoring, disrespecting, I would say, people who are not there and people who've been there years ago. And the challenge is many people say, but I have enough preparation preparing A, B, and C level, because before I would say I'm in the personal pronoun, I'm prepared when teaching of the personal pronoun. Now you want me to teach A, B, and C level, then I have to prepare 3 times. What are you talking about? 28 different levels. I would have to prepare 28 different classroom sessions. No, you don't prepare. You do this pyramid. I did that 5 years ago. Maybe I should do some on the graphic, but it's there. It doesn't matter. It took me half an hour to make this pyramid, and I use it every year. Students go into the same Google document. And this document, I'm not doing that. They're doing that. I'm just supervising it. Okay? Maybe you can be inspired in your own teaching. Maybe this is not a good way of reading a novel in English. I doubt that it could be. But for grammar, it works for me. And it's a way of differentiating, respecting the different levels of the different students. 0 preparation. So here's an example of how innovation is actually really productive for you and for the students with no extra time involved. And it gives you a heck of a good idea of the process of the different students. And you can actually, you hardly need to evaluate because they know where they are.
And you've got the evidence right there in front of you.
Yeah, and when it comes to grading, she knows why she gets a 12, which is the highest grade, because she did her own grammar book. She could pretty much publish it then. And this guy, he knows why he's getting a 0-0, which is not probable, because he knows that, there are 3 lines and they're all wrong in his grammar notes. jump into slide 3. We need to wrap it up. This is the presentation I did was in Spanish, but I'll talk it over in English. The Danish tradition of teaching may be, in some respects, similar to the British, and in some respects to the Spanish, and I think in many ways not very similar. We have actually an abbreviation, AFEL, AFEL, ansvar for egen læring. It's in Danish, but it means something like responsibility for your own learning. And we don't teach it, we preach it. We make them understand that the single most important factor for your own learning is you. You could actually learn Spanish sitting on the top of the Himalaya if you have a Wi-Fi connection. Without a teacher, without a classroom, without stuff, without didactics. Now you're so lucky that you have me, and I've thought it over, and we'll see how far we get, but you can actually be responsible for it yourself. And that's why when Alfredo and Nando was in my school, we would walk around and we'd just stop and say, are those people just working, sitting around with those fat boy, these cushions where you just kind of lie around like this? Yeah. Are they working? Yeah, I think so. Let's go ask them, and they'll say, yeah, they're doing math. And those people sitting around that corner, they're just chit-chatting on it, they're actually working on their own time. Because they, and this is the ideal, of course. A lot of the times the teenagers, they're not robots. So a lot of the times they just hang out. But they know that if they need to learn in order to get the process right, and they also have the results right, they need to discipline up and do some stuff because they also want to go to football this afternoon.
Do you think that in primary we have to teach them how to learn for themselves? Because if you say, right, let's go and investigate this, they have absolutely no idea. They're too young to know how to approach a subject.
Thanks for reminding me. I just tend to forget that you're mostly primary teachers, and I'm talking about 16 to 19. Yeah, there's a bit of a mix, but a lot of you are primary teachers. You have a fantastic, at least in Denmark, I would love to get into contact with the primary teachers more than I do in Denmark, to show them what we're doing so they can prep them for that. Yeah. Of course you cannot tell a 6-year, 7-year, 8, 10-year-old to be responsible for their own learning, but you can kind of get, it's a lot of progression, isn't it? Yeah. If they need to be here and even over 3 years progress into being more disciplined around this.
Because we're trying to do like group work, and in group work some of them are fantastic.
Yes.
Like in year 3, but others just sit there and let everybody else do all the work.
Yes. And there's also responsibility for the social dynamics of the group, which also relates to your own learning and their learning. I'll just,
something in the IPC that looks at the approaches to learning is that there is an Amelia's program where we're actually trying to develop their skills in learning to learn.
Yes.
And I think in the IPC there's a link there, isn't there?
Yeah, a lot of
But we need to roll it out more in school, I think.
But of course you need to, I don't know how much contact you have between primary and secondary. I would advise you to talk to each other, work in teams, share experiences, share thoughts and visions, and maybe on the visionary level also, because then I think you could get more concrete in the way that primary teachers do their stuff, so they can kind of blend into secondary school. Very often we have quite a big gap between where they end in 9th grade, which is at age 15, where they end. They need to bridge the gap over to the first day of first year of gymnasium, of secondary school. And the people who learn to learn, they do it over a period of 3 weeks. The people who didn't learn to learn, then they're lagging behind the progression, their own progression for 3 years. It's a huge problem.
We're trying to develop for the students for next year a reflective journal where they take responsibility for their own approaches to learning.
Yes.
But it's getting it to go.
As I said, something you could start right down. We started doing this, it's working quite well. Every Friday, the children write a little journal, think about what I've learned this week, how I did it, how I would have done it differently. It's just a tiny little seed, but
And I think Jorge and Alberto have built a document. I'm just going to drop in the MIP content for the purchase to learn, but so that they're actually really aware and reflective on that process for over 5 years.
It seems you already have some points for the group debate for later on. Please, you remember it, and
Yeah.
I'll just flip through my slides. Just still have a couple of points to make, and we'll do the group thing.
Yeah.
And then let me just underline, subrayar, underline the importance of working together. Sharing is caring, as my students say. Compartimos mucho, we share a lot, and we share a lot of thoughts, material, practices, because we share the same goals. We're not a private entity, a private company chasing after the same bonus and Christmas bonus and selling. But I would say our aim is more important than blue numbers and blue figures in the budget of the private company. We produce healthy ciudadanos, citizens. That's a heck of a bottom line to aim for. So we have to share the same goal, and we share students. And if I'm an excellent teacher, that's fantastic. But I also want you to be an excellent teacher, so they're both great in Spanish and history and in math, because I recognize the fact that math is super important for my kids. Because if not, in biology and English and everything else, because if not, important points that you heard or that you thought of when you heard something. And we'll take it. And we're not going to make solutions.
The most important thing that's come up from this discussion and presentation today is being able to work together as a team, to be able to discuss and share ideas across if we can share practice and actually talk about teaching rather than subject the practice of teaching, because that's all we really talk about today, is the practice of teaching, not necessarily the subjects that we teach. You know what I mean? The methodologies that we use, I think, is by far the most important.
I really love that idea of pyramid, and the just got to the way of it, because there are some high pyramids and there's some that are never going to get any higher than like the second level. But I think what restricts us with that idea is especially with Cambridge. Yeah, you have to adapt it. Because I think especially with specialist subjects, they are so stuck in that one way that they can't move on that one. I think what we need to do is look at the objectives, put them in a pyramid, and then maybe even not do so religiously wordsmith and so religiously advocate. But I think really tie in.
It's a restriction here. We are restricted.
This is what I was saying, if we can share teaching practice rather than subject practice, that's far more useful, I think, because I can practice one method and you can practice the same method.
I haven't ordered textbooks. I don't like them for that.
They expect us to get our lunch.
Because they ask you want a textbook, and I go, I haven't used one release, so I'm just... Because they're not differentiated enough. They're too religious and
what struggles for them, and they know that their own difficulties are. Children know that, they're not stupid. They know that I'm going to have difficulty with this area, so traditionally what they would have done is they would have avoided that completely. I can't do that. But if you have the culture of what he's been saying there, of, I'm going to come along, we can work on this together, you know, on a one-to-one. Exactly.
Why do you have to use textbooks? Well, it's really useful. Make it like one way and one way or another.
So it's like a textbook.
Another percentage of the work that was in the
I quite like it.
So I know you all use Amicus books as textbooks.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Do you think there's too many tasks? Part of the differentiation is very often.
But generally,
Some weeks where it's all online.
I think a lot of this comes down to whether and not to are trusted to do a good job. You know, if we have line managers or directors saying, right, okay, I don't trust you as a teacher, so therefore I'm going to say to you, you need to use that product, it's going to be this scheme, it's going to be this.
so many of us.
Because it's almost like they say, well, we guarantee by using this scheme we'll get that out. So that's not the way it works.
But it's
You do the resources yourself.
so then you spend hours thinking, right, well, that object is covered in these 3 lessons. Well, either or I move on, so they can reflect the so then you move on to the next subject, and then you plan all that, different ideas, activities, whiteboards, iPads, games, whatever. Then you come back to the next one, you just want to cover all those objectives.
I don't like the schemes, I don't like end up doing this and then you work from the
street. Regulation policy as well. So you had to teach education this way. You had to go in there.
She always encourages us to be
and the definitions for
also, I mean, I love the way
they're still drawing the grade, they're already doing 4x4, whatever, you know. So, and it was all happening in the room, all doing the same, but you still cover the same objectives.
So can I just interrupt for a second? We've been boring administration. Make sure you fill that in. And the answer to question number 4 is 100 to 260.
It's really restricted. It is restricted, but that's there is an element of transport to the objectives where we're not in a position where we study experience.
No, maybe we don't have conflict
in that. Early stages, there's nothing going on like
one of the questions about what you want to change in your group, I'm just about my immediate thinking there would be that I am. I'm thinking, yeah, because you're that important, is year groups. And I think it comes back to the original, is actually having more time together to be able to play. Because he was talking about the 50% content time. Well, he was saying 2 lessons on, 2 lessons off. That would be ideal for us to be able to have a practice.
Is it same lessons on, actually behind time?
Exactly.
Like when you're free, I'm not
I would love to come and see what Linda does in her SEN lessons, because if I can support the SEN, this is the thing, but I need to have the time to do that. So if I can come and sit with you and see the way that you are communicating your message to the children that are in my class, and I can then support that better in my class, because I don't have a connection to you at the moment, because you come into my class, you take the children, you support the children, and then you bring them back. I don't have any connection with you. And similarly, I don't have a connection with Year 6, because I know that they are going to be the group of teachers that are going to be coming after me. They have their own set of expectations. So it would be great to have a group meeting with you, a group meeting with Year 6, and even a group meeting with Year 4, to see how the progression from Year 4 through to Year 6 and through SEN will work. But it's time, again.
But unfortunately, it's presented itself each year. People don't feel supported when we have a staff meeting, and if they go into the subject is a big art themselves, actually sometimes and often people don't utilise the time that is given to them unless they're sat down and spoken to by Joy. They don't go to staff meeting. Do you know what I mean? You know,
it's a culture that needs to be fomented.
So when I'm directing your time, you need to do that. And teaching your direct time, that is an instruction that needs to be followed. Not a case of one looking out for lunch now, but I'll actually not later. And that very much happens here because they're not productive. They're instructions that don't take
because we don't have leaders.
Other things too.
But my reality is I have not been led in any subject. We have subject leaders, but I don't actually have a subject leader. For example, I have not been given any kind of direction, any kind of leadership in any of the areas in which we're supposed to have leaders. I haven't.
Which is the same as how many people come from learning.
Exactly.
People think that if I go and ask, it's a weakness. If I show you how to lead my subject, it's like I know all about it.
And that's what we're talking about, this question, what needs to change in the group? And that needs to change in the group. You know, we need to have leaders who are confident enough to come up and say, can we come up and have a chat? You know, and let's see how we can get on together.
People come out, they know, but people really qualified with more experience than the people that we teach this, that have got different elements to add into the
Exactly.
You know, and that's just accepting the fact that Leah's probably got the top knowledge on what's new. You've got the top knowledge of what's in English, and people that are sort of for years teaching have maybe got methodologies that have reinvented themselves or have done before. You know, like creative curriculum, like what the ABC is passing around, and it's utilising Nathan to feel their part is important.
Well, that's small steps though that you were talking about. I'd like to be able to, what could you do? Like, you know, one change that you could make to your own teaching next year. That'd be good. Just think of one change, one innovation that you can make in your classroom. So, you know, rather than talking about things that are important but we don't have control, what do we have control of? What would you like to do?
I think for me it's both the competition that PBL with facilitating learning, not actually teachers. You know, it's that whole process. It takes the attitude of
It's where we change the attitude sometimes with the children or not. If you ever do give the kids an activity, it's a very basic simple activity, it's about initiative, it's for each fill this in for me, and they just go back and they're there with a little bit of paper and they just sit down and they do it. So then you say, right, okay, you're the manager, you're the show master, and they get with each other. And it's like, you're like, go right on one side.
But there's always that feeling.
And that's what I mean, it's educating those kids.
Yeah, the actual teaching their own.
Exactly that. Teaching them how to work together, how to communicate with each other, how to actually do your bit of the job. Because you see, you're not going to pass this task, you're not going to succeed in this task. You'll all do your little bits. We all have to share that information. You've got a manager, you've got someone who knows exactly what you're doing. And all of those little things, you're teaching them all of those important roles. They have no idea about that, but they like the little bit of paper that you have to fill in 10 minutes because the first one done, then is done. And
they're in control of that.
That's what they always
You've got to hope that if anybody comes into a service, they understand that KSL learning is taking place. Whereas we've got every time.
No, but I mean,
I think that sort of state, I think,
no, no, what I mean is kind of like we're trying to educate the kids to think differently, and then the parents see the kids think they're like, yeah, but where are they coming from? What's the list? What do they need to know? I said, no, we need to educate them as well. I said, well, no, actually, that list of things, it's just, you know what I mean?
We might be saying about the groups as well, Helen. Sometimes you have to do activities where the activity itself is not the end.
Yeah, exactly.
The end is, you know, trying to use that language all the time, who's the spokesperson.
And we do that all the time.
I would do like 5 or 10 minutes activities even, but using that language.
The iLearning, the Open Mobile Learning Day really helped the parents to understand a lot more about where the schools come from in terms of the vision. And we need to be brave as teachers, and we need to be encouraged to take risks. That's the thing. And for me, taking a risk is trying a new methodology that I've never done before, which will be the PBL for some people. It might be trying a new piece of software. It might be trying a new taking It's about taking a risk and saying, let's try it. And I think we need to be encouraged by the people who are observing the way that we're working. But we also have to take responsibility and say, I want to try it. This is something that I'm not just going to go off and do. I'm going to go off and but I think if we can encourage change a culture.
The way to do it.
Because everybody has something to give. That's, people have got to realise that they have got an important and something to give.
This is what we were saying the other day, just in a small conversation. The day actually walked into my classroom, he'd been, 3 days as a teacher, and I'd given him an activity, and I heard him say, well, if you did, what about if we colour-coded it? What about if all the answers, those answers went in red and those answers went in red? And I said, Rachel, we don't colour-code our answers, because I've been teaching for 25 years, but there's been someone who's been can't teach me. You know, you need to be able to listen to it. So what about one change? Say that change. One thing you changed.
I just,
No, you can change something that you can change in your classroom. A different way of doing it. Like we did with the spelling. So we're going to do the spelling in a completely different way now.
yeah.
No, but we did do 2 years ago. That's what we said.
I think that's a different way.
That was an example.
Family and friends. Just lead something. But we had to make a
So could we do that? Could we stick to family and friends but find more fun ways to do it?
Do we have to do that?
Well, I think you should do like secondary a bit more. Like, I've never worked in a school that's a primary and a secondary to join, but if you're struggling with how to engage with grammar, Rachel the teacher's grammar, Heather teacher's grammar, like, I only teach maths. Like, I have 4,000 resources or 5,000 now on a USB and on maths. If you need help with engaging with maths, like, it's our specialism. We've got. No, we don't need. We don't share. No, that's me and my doing. We don't really work together doing the primary and the secondary. We don't actually need to work together really. Really collaborative pattern.
Well, the subject leaders have started to do that now. I think it's been recognised as an important
Really like that grammar is not necessarily engaging on every teacher, but you know, we don't really mix, so that's a bit weird if we're actually like.
To really think about what they actually want to do.
Like all this stuff you're talking about, I don't know really what it is, and I'm going to teach the kids that you're teaching. Like, I don't know how the structure goes, completely how everything's changing.
I was talking to someone about having a building meeting, because I think that would be really useful, because we've got a primary and a secondary.
Me and Liz were talking about that.
And I think that would be great for us to be able to have a building meeting, not just talk about the housekeeping, about moving around, but also talk about the stuff that's important from year 6 to year 7 to year 5 to year 6. Exactly. But again, it's about having those time spaces to do that together.
I think part of the reason people are part of meetings is because the ones we have at lunchtime in secondary that are labelled, they're briefings, and all you have to know, if they're briefings, we need to like say, well, these are meetings where you actually your opinion will be asked for. They're briefings, and then that's a briefing. If someone stood at the front telling you it's not a meeting. If someone stood at the front reciting information to you and you're making that's a briefing, it's not a meeting. If we make a distinction, people will be more willing to come to meetings where they're actually going to be doing something productive for them, helping them.
You have decisions made and people are going to make them, and then what the action is going to be as a result.
And they're not done lecture style. They're not someone stood at the front and you guys are, that's not a meeting. That's a briefing on what's happening.
So what do you think the most inspiring is?
I think what we need to do is be a lot more open with the students, talk to them a lot more what we're looking for, why we're doing like why we're doing this, what they're aiming for. And I think it made we started using in English like success criteria and having it stuck in their books and right, this is what I'm looking for. You write your thing. If you look back and think, oh hold on, I haven't looked up to Morten, go back and check, and then you can tick it once you go up. But the thing is, they just go, yeah, tick, 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 yeah, without even checking. But then it's a process that they've got to learn. But if you could do it again, our job in primary is to teach them how to be responsible.
They need to be taught how to check the work, how to go back and
if you're not being
and if we're stuck to this book that we have to do, we have to get through, we haven't got time to do
But in the workshop I gave, remember I was talking about doing peer observations and peer learning to the children. That's really good because then you can match kids up with similar abilities, and then they can look at each other's work and say, well, actually, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for capital letters, full stops, that's all.
Well, what we've done is we've around some of them we've had like the success criteria, what they think, what their friend thinks, and then what I think.
I think that's the way to do it, and say teach them how to, because they're much better doing it on other people's.
And then they say, look, you've ticked here that we've got this, but you haven't. Where can you show me where it is? Just ticked it because but it's just a slow process. You can't just expect them to.
But we do have a lot of opportunities. We're saying about schemes and things, but we have some words in it. Actually has that kind of thing built into it, doesn't it? Think, question, 3 stars and a wish, and it's actually training children. And I was surprised when I did just how positive they are with each other. Saying, "Oh, this is good," and really saying, and also we're doing this portfolio journal thing. At first we thought it was a disadvantage that they couldn't see each other's work, but they've started like at home, like putting little likes on each other's videos, and I love this. It's really
For practice, what I would like to do is extend that I've just been talking about from English into some other subjects as well. So the children are taking because I'm used to doing it in English.
They need to know what they're heading towards, what we're looking for, what they need to achieve.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt the discussions. Let's just wrap it up also because the 1.5 hour has gone. So and I'm sure you're off to all kind of other activities, but let's just wrap up what came to the surface, maybe in the form of headlines, because of course there's a lot of words behind an idea, but maybe see if you, on the idea level, so let's not get too much into the nitty-gritty of technicalities of who does what. But for instance, Paul, you mentioned something that I'm very, very much in line with. You talked something about teacher practice and subject practice. Can you recap on that?
Yeah, sure. I was just talking about I can use a methodology in the subject that I'm teaching, and you can use exactly the same methodology in your subject, and we can have a really good result between the two of us. And it's you can spread it around.
Yes. Whereas if you stay in the subject practice, I'm a math teacher, you're an English teacher, we have nothing in common. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have more in common that we have that divides us. Mm-hmm. We have the same students, we have the same objectives, we do the same thing. Actually, it's only the subject that differs, but the methodology they're learning to learn in math. Maybe when they go, why do we need to learn this? And they find out why they need to learn this. They can bring that body feeling, stomach feeling into learning my grammar in Spanish. Okay, so I know that sometimes you just need to invest some more time for it. And that is a common methodology. I think it's a great example. I really hope for you that you'll be able to explore that teacher practice or subject practice over time. You're not doing it already. You talked some about more team teaching and maybe preparing common materials. So you guys, you two, you prepare the stuff that all the others use, recognizing the fact that you are that it's a teacher practice and not necessarily a subject practice. It's not to cancel all subjects, and they have their own importance, of course. Maybe it's just got to be have too much importance, and then kind of overshadowing the importance that lies here. What else did you come up with, kind of headline-ish?
We were talking about shared time together for planning as well, and exchanging ideas, and not necessarily resources, but ideas about approaches to particular topics. And we wanted to have more time together.
We came up with exactly the same that we came up with.
And you probably do too. Let me just say one thing. We do too. In my place, we do that all the time. It's a process that we started in 2005 when the school started and was built and founded. We already got into, can we save time and energy and resources on some planning for others, which is very kind of not in line with traditional, I do my stuff, you do yours, and I'm probably better than you. You know, that idea, and why should you kind of take my material and my thoughts, it's copyrighted. No, totally, we want to go against that, because we know that when you guys plan something that I'm going to teach, I might do some adjustments to kind of, I'm not wearing your clothes either, I would have to kind of adjust it. So, some adjustment, but it saves me a lot of time, and a lot of other people's time that you did the work that we just do the adjustments. What we talk about is what do we do with the time we save. It saved me some time that you planned stuff. I spent that much time just doing adjustments, and now I'm totally comfortable teaching what you've prepared. It took me so much time, I didn't have to spend so much time on preparing it from scratch, multiplied by the amount of teachers that save that much time. The question is, what do we do with that time we save? We go home, play PlayStation 4 or FIFA 14, that's what many students would do. We kind of have to teach them to not spend too much time, you know, work and finish, and then free time. Can we prioritize doing other things? So I think that it's important that when we save time, we invest it in some other productive thing to do, to save us even more time again. And then when the job is done, we go relax. All aimed at the students' learning. Sorry?
I was going to say reflection time on
exactly.
On what we
when you get
do.
things done, you have more time to also think and reflect. And
I don't think we have enough time with the students to reflect on their learning, to really get them to see how what they're learning is related to the real world and how they could use that. You know, it's I don't think we have enough time.
We need less content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also motivation is trying to fit everything in.
But that's also in secondary, you know, year 12 and year 13. You don't have time. You give them back. Okay, come and see me on patio. So you're giving up your time. They're giving, you know, it's not timetable. They just want to, like workhorses, we feel a lot of the time. They don't have scheduled time for teachers. Yeah.
You mentioned something about that it's not only you feeling burdened or overloaded, it's also the students.
Yeah.
I have the luxury, it seems that the more I talk, my job is fantastic, and it is, but we're also giving time to, and also because we have these practices of, you know, getting things done quickly, innovatively, but we need to get out of the comfort zone of standing behind our desk and not sharing our stuff, but when we do that, it releases a lot of time. What can I do with that time that is productive towards the students' learning? Talk to the students. Sometimes I talk to the students about the overloads that they have, because I don't want to make great students that die from a stress psychosis 3 years into their career. You know what I'm saying? So I'm also talking about to my students about how they can prioritize their things. Maybe, just maybe, you're a really good math student. You struggle in English. Maybe you need to do your math stuff a little bit better. A little bit quicker. Maybe not spend that much time to convert time spent in something you do really well on where you need to do the real effort. And you know what? My experience is also that the students, some struggle with that, but some are really good at it. And where one student can get in contact with another and tell him about his own practice, put some words, maybe not in primary. In secondary, they can actually tell other students what they do to learn quicker or get their things done so they can prioritize the time where the time is needed. They try to activate them to talk to each other because they can really be their own best coaches, much more than what we want to tell them. So I think that it's also social responsibility on top of all the things we need to teach them to be healthy citizens.
I think that's what's actually missing in working here. I feel that the students are hugely overloaded with content, and that sort of social responsibility, pastoral side of things is overlooked.
But being overloaded, I was on about how to teach stuff that is closer, proximate to reality. That's very realistic to be overloaded. The thing is, if you can teach them, or they can actually, more important, that they can learn early on in life, maybe even quite small in primary, so they get the progress in that to primary and secondary, so when they go on into the totally overloaded labor market, they have an immune system.
Speaking about time,
yes.
Call time now. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you. Thank you.
There is a snack that's been laid on, so you know how great. So we'd like to continue conversation. Everybody is invited. Just to say as well, the book that Morten has referenced a few times, I put it onto 2 modules that people are already on: collaborative learning and using PDL. If anybody's not on one of those modules and would like to have the link, let me know. And just to say thank you so much for
Good luck.